All right, so welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You guys really threw us a curveball this time. Elon Musk.
Wow. Yeah, no
I
kidding.
mean, there's so much out there about him.
Oh, absolutely. Just a ton.
And you sent over, like, this massive Wikipedia page. Right?
Yeah, well, we want to be thorough, you know.
Totally.
Yeah.
So our goal today is to kind of extract the most crucial, like, really interesting insights, you know?
The good stuff.
Yeah. The good stuff about his background, all his crazy ventures, what he's been up to lately. You know, just get a really good grasp of who Elon Musk is.
Basically, we're saving you the hassle of having to sift through all of it. You know,
Yeah.
giving you the Cliff Notes version of this incredibly complex guy.
Absolutely.
Highlighting those pivotal moments that kind of explain his trajectory, right?
Yeah, perfect.
So you can really understand the driving forces behind it all.
That's it. That's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's rewind all the way back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning.
Elon Musk was born in Pretoria, South Africa,
Okay.
June 28th, 1971. And right off the bat, his family background is really fascinating.
Sure, yeah.
British and Pennsylvania Dutch ancestry on his mother's side.
Interesting.
His mom, May.
Right.
She was a Canadian model and dietitian. But she was raised in South Africa.
Okay.
Now, his dad, Elon Musk, was a South African electromechanical engineer and businessman.
So right from the start, there's this international kind of blend going on.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you wonder how much that early exposure, you know, to different cultures and ways of thinking shaped, like, his global ambitions later on.
It makes you wonder. It really does.
Now, family-wise, he wasn't an only child.
Okay.
He had a younger brother, Kimball.
Kimball.
Now, you might recognize that name from, like, the food tech world.
Yeah, okay.
And he's got a younger sister, Koska, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 paternal half-siblings, too. So a big family.
Wow.
He was raised in the Anglican Church, baptized.
Okay.
And, you know, the sources all say that the Musks, they were a wealthy family.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this interesting thing about his dad's connection to emerald mines.
Emerald mines. What's that about?
Okay, so initially, both Elon and his father talked about Errol being, like, part owner of an emerald mine.
Oh, wow.
But more recently, Errol has clarified that, no, he actually received, like, a share of emeralds from smaller mining operations.
So not an owner, but still profiting from the industry.
Exactly. And it kind of makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much of the emerald mine story is, like, embellishment, maybe?
Right. You know, it's almost like as their success grew, the stories got a bit grander, too.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Human nature, I guess.
Totally. Okay, so moving on. His dad, Errol, also had a political background.
Really?
He was elected to the Pretoria City Council,
Okay.
representing the anti-apartheid Progressive Party.
Wow.
And it says that, you know, Elon and his siblings, they shared his opposition to apartheid. So really interesting environment to grow up in.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about a formative experience, right?
Totally. Now, what fueled young Elon's imagination? Well, he was a big reader.
Okay.
Apparently, The Lord of the Rings was a huge
A
influence.
classic.
The Foundation series by Asimov
Oh, sci-fi.
and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That's a good one.
Right.
It's funny because you can almost see like the early glimpses of his thinking in those books.
Oh, totally right.
Those fantastical worlds, the kind of disregard for the ordinary, you know?
Yeah. Pushing boundaries.
Pushing boundaries, exactly.
And then, at just 10 years old, he gets into computers and video games.
10 years old.
Yeah. And get this, he teaches himself programming
No way.
from the manual of a VC-20 computer.
Wow. Talk about like self-driven learning, right?
I know.
Yeah.
And then by 12, he creates his own video game.
12.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's called Blaster, and it's like basic-based.
basic.
Yeah, and he sells it to a magazine for like $500.
So even at that age, he's like identifying a need, filling it, and then, you know, profiting from it.
The entrepreneurial spirit is strong with this one.
It's pretty amazing, yeah.
All right, so secondary education. He went to Waterkloof House Preparatory School, Bryanston High School, and then he graduated from Pretoria Boys High School.
Pretoria Boys High. Okay.
Academically, he did well. Not like a straight A student or anything,
Right.
but good grades, especially in Africans and senior math.
Interesting.
Now, here's a big turning point. He applies for a Canadian passport through his mom,
A Canadian passport. Why is that?
mainly to avoid mandatory military service in South Africa.
Ah, I see.
In fact, he actually spent about 5 months at the University of Pretoria
Okay.
while he was waiting for those Canadian documents.
So that's before he even moved to Canada.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this decision to leave really shows, his desire to create his own path to pursue different opportunities.
Makes sense. I mean, mandatory military service, that's a huge commitment, and it clearly wasn't in line with his goals.
Right. Okay, so 1989 rolls around. He arrives in Canada and enrolls at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario.
Queen's University, okay.
But his academic journey wasn't done yet.
No?
Nope. He transfers to the University of Pennsylvania in the U.S.
Ah, okay.
And in 1997, he graduates with 2 bachelor's degrees.
2.
Yeah, economics and physics.
So he's always had this kind of multidisciplinary approach to things.
It seems that way, yeah. Now, here's another interesting tidbit. He was accepted into Stanford's doctoral program in material science engineering back in 1995.
Stanford. That's a big deal.
Huge.
But he didn't go.
Nope.
Wow.
He's mentioned that his student visa allowed him to work in the U.S., so it seems like, he was really drawn to the world of building and creating more so than staying in academia.
Makes sense. He's always been about action, right?
Yeah.
Taking an idea and making it happen.
Exactly. And that's exactly what he did. In 1995, he co-founded Zip2 with his brother Kimball.
Zip2, what was that?
It was like an early online city guide.
Okay.
And it took off.
Really?
Big time. Compaq ends up buying it in 1999
Oh, wow.
for over $300 million.
Serious money.
Huge. And Elon's share from the sale was about $22 million.
So that's a pretty significant early success story, right?
Oh, absolutely. Not only the financial win, but I think it also validated his instincts, his ability to spot an emerging trend and build a successful business.
Totally. It's like that first big win that gives you the confidence to really go for it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next up, 1999, he co-founds X.com.
X.com. What's that one about?
It was an online financial services and email payment company.
Okay.
Like way ahead of its time.
So like early online banking.
Pretty much one of the first federally insured online banks, actually.
Wow. That's impressive.
They got a lot of users quickly, but the investors, they weren't so sure about Elon as the CEO.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, they were a bit concerned about his lack of experience.
That's got to be a tough pill to swallow, right? You found this company, it's doing well, but they don't think you're the guy to lead it.
I know. It's a good reminder that founding something doesn't guarantee you'll always be at the helm.
Yeah, for sure. So what happened next?
To avoid competition, X.com ends up merging with Confinity in 2000.
Confinity. Does that name ring a bell?
It should. They have this little service called PayPal.
Oh, PayPal. That's how I pay for everything online.
I know, right? It was really gaining traction at the time. So after the merger, Elon becomes a major shareholder in this new company, which they just rebrand as PayPal.
That makes sense.
But the leadership challenges didn't go away. He's ousted as CEO again later that year.
Again? Wow.
Yeah, but this time he stayed on the board, acted as an advisor
Okay.
until PayPal's IPO in 2002.
So he was still involved, just not in the top spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then eBay scoops up PayPal.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And with his 11.7% stake, Elon walks away with a cool $165 million.
So even though he was pushed out twice, he still came out on top.
Yeah. It just shows you he's got this knack for seeing the potential in emerging technologies, building these successful companies, even when things get a little messy.
Yeah, it seems like he's constantly learning and adapting, right?
Absolutely. All right, so now we get to the really big leagues. Tesla.
Tesla. Okay, so I know Elon Musk and Tesla are like synonymous, but wasn't he actually one of the founders?
Actually, no. It was incorporated in July 2003 by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning.
Oh, interesting.
But Elon, he enters the picture in a big way in February 2004.
How so?
He leads the Series A investment round.
Okay.
It's in over $6 million.
That's a lot of money.
It was. And that made him the majority shareholder and chairman.
So he essentially took control of the company pretty early on.
In a way, yeah. He was really involved in designing the Roadster.
Okay, Roadster, that was the first one, right?
Yep. But he wasn't running day-to-day operations at first. It's important to note, Tesla wasn't solely his creation.
Right, right.
But his investment and vision were critical in getting it off the ground.
Yeah, the idea for high-performance electric cars, that was already there.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like his backing was what really allowed them to, take it from concept to reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so fast forward to 2008.
Okay.
Some internal conflicts and the whole global financial crisis happening.
A lot going on.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. And that's when Elon takes over as CEO and product architect.
Oh, he finally gets the top job.
He does. And in 2009, a legal settlement actually recognizes him as a co-founder.
Huh.
Yeah. So that same year, Tesla starts delivering the Roadster.
Okay, the Roadster.
It was a huge moment. It was the first mass-produced all-electric car to use lithium-ion batteries.
Wow.
They sold about 2,500 of them.
So that's really when Tesla started to, like, get on people's radar, right?
Absolutely. And then under Elon's leadership, they roll out a whole line of models.
Okay, like what?
The Model S in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
the Model X in 2015.
That's the one with the falcon wing doors, right?
The one and only. Then the Model 3 in 2017, which was aimed at making electric cars more affordable.
Yeah, okay.
The Model Y in 2020, kind of an SUV style.
Okay.
And then most recently, the Cybertruck in 2023.
The Cybertruck, that thing looks like it's from a sci-fi movie, so it's clear he really wants to, like, mainstream electric vehicles.
Without a doubt. He wants to take them from, like, this niche market to the everyday driver.
That's a pretty ambitious goal.
It is. And, of course, there have been some bumps along the way.
Like what?
Remember the funding secured tweet?
Oh, yeah, the tweet that got him in trouble with the SEC.
Exactly. It led to a lawsuit, and in 2020, he had to step down as chairman.
But he stayed on as CEO.
Yeah, he did. Now, on top of all this, Tesla's been building these gigafactories all over the world.
The gigafactories, yeah, I've heard about those.
And their stock, it's been, like, on a roller coaster ride, but mostly up.
Really?
Yeah, in the summer of 2020, they became the most valuable car maker in the world.
Wow.
Joined the S&P 500 later that year.
Okay.
And in October 2021, their market cap hit $1 trillion.
$1 trillion? That's, like, unheard of for a car company.
I know. It shows you just how much confidence investors have in Tesla's potential, in Elon's vision.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like they believe he's really onto something big.
Absolutely. All right, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about Solar City and Tesla Energy.
Solar City. Okay. I'm vaguely familiar with that one.
Yeah, so it was founded in 2006 by Elon's cousins.
His cousins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the initial idea and the money to start it actually came from Elon.
Oh, so he was behind it from the beginning.
Pretty much.
Oh.
By 2013, they were the second largest provider of solar power systems in the U.S.
Wow, they grew quickly.
They did.
Yeah.
And Elon was really pushing for this advanced production facility in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Then in 2016, Tesla acquires Solar City for $2 billion.
$2 billion.
And they merge it with their battery unit to create Tesla Energy.
Okay, so that's how they all came together.
It is. But this whole move, it caused a lot of controversy.
Really?
Well, Tesla's stock price dropped after the announcement.
Okay.
And some shareholders, they filed lawsuits.
Lawsuits? What were they alleging?
They claimed the deal was more about bailing out Solar City, which was apparently having financial trouble,
Ah, I see.
than it was about, like, a strategic business move for Tesla.
So like a conflict of interest kind of thing.
Exactly. But in 2022, a court actually ruled in Elon's favor in one of those lawsuits.
Oh, okay.
So it's a really complicated situation. It highlights just how much scrutiny these big corporate decisions get, especially when you're dealing with someone like Elon who's got his hands in so many different pies.
Yeah, it definitely raises questions about, like, what responsibilities those in charge have to their shareholders and whether personal interest can sometimes cloud judgment.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to something a little more futuristic. Neuralink.
Neuralink. I've heard that name. It has something to do with brains.
You got it. Founded in 2017, their goal is to create, like, a seamless interface between the human brain and artificial intelligence.
Okay, so we're talking, like, brain implants and stuff.
Yeah. And they're not shy about their ambitions. They want to enhance memory, treat neurological conditions, all sorts of things.
That's pretty ambitious.
It is. But they're making progress. In 2022, they announced they were moving towards clinical trials.
Clinical trials.
And get this. In September 2023, they got FDA approval to start human trials.
So they're actually going to be testing this technology on people.
That's the plan. It's a big deal, and it raises all sorts of ethical questions,
Absolutely. I mean, messing with the human brain, that's some serious stuff.
No kidding. So a lot of their research is involved animal testing.
Like what kind of animals?
Mostly macaques.
Monkeys.
Yeah, monkeys. And there was this video that went viral, you might have seen it, of a monkey playing Pong, using a Neuralink implant.
I think I did see that.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Pretty wild. But hasn't there been controversy around this whole thing?
Oh, for sure. There have been allegations of animal cruelty and people raising concerns about, the ethical implications of this kind of research.
Yeah, you're basically talking about blurring the lines between humans and machines.
Exactly. So there's a lot to unpack there, both scientifically and ethically.
Definitely a lot to think about.
Okay, so next up we've got the Boring Company.
The Boring Company. What do they do? Bore people to death. Just kidding.
Well, their goal is pretty straightforward. Build tunnels. Tunnels. But not just any tunnels. They want to create these high-speed underground transportation systems.
Oh, like to avoid traffic.
Exactly. Like, imagine zipping under a city instead of sitting in gridlock.
That does sound pretty appealing.
Right. So they started with a quote-unquote test trench at the SpaceX facility.
Okay.
And then in 2018, they unveiled this almost 2-mile tunnel in Los Angeles.
I remember hearing about that.
But reports were that the ride was a little rough and not as fast as they'd hoped.
So not quite living up to the hype.
Not at first, no. Some projects in Chicago and West LA were canceled.
Okay.
But they did finish a tunnel system under the Las Vegas Convention Center in early 2021.
Oh, okay. So some successes, some setbacks.
Yeah. And there's talk of expanding that Vegas system. So it's definitely an interesting approach to tackling infrastructure challenges.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can actually make it, practical and affordable on a larger scale.
Totally. Okay, so let's get into the Twitter acquisition, now known as X, of course.
Twitter, or should I say X? It's hard to keep up.
I know, right? So Elon's interest in Twitter goes way back to 2017.
Pre-17.
Yeah, he was publicly questioning their commitment to free speech back then.
Okay.
Then, fast forward to 2022, he becomes their biggest shareholder.
Biggest shareholder, wow.
With a 9.2% stake. At first, he agrees to join the board, but with limits on how much of the company he could own.
Okay.
But then, he does a complete 180.
What do you mean?
He makes a $43 billion offer to buy the whole thing outright.
$43 billion.
Yeah. And in October 2022, the deal is done. $44 billion.
So he went from board member to owner in a blink of an eye.
It was wild. The whole social media landscape just shifted.
It's been, what, a whirlwind ever since.
Total whirlwind. So he introduces Twitter Blue, which is a subscription service with verification.
Right, the blue check mark thing.
Yep. Then, of course, they rebrand to X.
X. I still don't know what to make of that.
Me neither. And on top of all that, there's been a whole bunch of really serious challenges. Yeah, misinformation, hate speech, and a lot of controversies around anti-Semitism.
That's heavy stuff.
It is. And people have accused him of silencing critics by taking away their blue check marks or suspending their accounts.
So basically using his control to kind of shape the conversation.
Yeah, it's a really complicated situation, and it raises questions about the balance between free speech and making sure the platform isn't, a breeding ground for harmful content.
Yeah, totally. It's a tough line to walk, and it's something a lot of social media platforms are grappling with.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, real quick, let's touch on the Hyperloop.
Oh, the Hyperloop. That's the super fast train in a vacuum tube.
Right, it's the one. He announced it back in 2013. The idea was to have it running between LA and San Francisco.
That would be amazing.
Right. But it's faced a ton of developmental hurdles.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those things that's amazing in theory, but incredibly hard to actually pull off.
Totally. Okay, back to AI. Elon was one of the co-founders of OpenAI in 2015.
OpenAI, the one that's making all the headlines with ChatGPT.
Yep, that's them.
Yeah.
So initially it was a nonprofit focused on developing artificial general intelligence that's safe and beneficial for humanity.
That was the goal, right?
It was. He pledged to give $1 billion, but in the end, he only donated $50 million, and he left the board in 2018.
Okay. So he was involved early on, but then stepped back.
Yeah. But then, in July 2023, he launches XAI.
XAI, another one.
Another one. This one's focused on building a generative AI program to compete with ChatGPT.
So he's back in the AI game, but this time it's a for-profit venture.
Exactly. He got funding from SpaceX and Tesla investors, and he's hired engineers from Google and OpenAI.
So he's going all in.
He is. It seems like he's really interested in shaping the future of AI, in a more direct way this time around.
It's interesting to see how his thinking has evolved on this, right? From the, safety-focused, non-profit approach to now being directly involved in the competition.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift. Okay, now this one's a little out there.
What's that?
The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE.
DOGE? Like the meme?
I know, right? It sounds crazy. But apparently this came out of talks between Elon and Donald Trump.
Trump.
Back in August 2024, Trump reportedly said he'd give Elon an advisory role, and Elon said yes.
Wow. So they're like buddies.
Well, they definitely had some kind of working relationship. The idea behind DOGE was to, like, slash the federal budget and maybe even get rid of some agencies.
So like a government efficiency overhaul.
Yeah, that was the pitch. And then in January 2025, it actually happened.
It happens.
Yeah. DOGE is created by executive order.
Wow.
And Elon is designated a special government employee and senior advisor.
So he's like officially part of the government now.
In a way, yeah. It's super unconventional.
No kidding. But what does he actually do?
That's the thing. His role was really unclear. A federal judge even reportedly said he was like the de facto leader.
De facto leader. So even though it wasn't official, he was essentially calling the shots.
It seems that way, yeah. And there's been a lot of criticism about how he treated federal employees, his influence over layoffs, and his obsession with secrecy.
That's a bit concerning.
It is. And then a judge ruled that he probably acted unconstitutionally when he shut down USA.
So there are legal questions around his actions.
Big time. It's a really unusual situation, you know?
Yeah.
This blend of private sector and government, and it's clearly raised a lot of red flags.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique and maybe not entirely positive development.
Totally. All right, let's talk politics. Elon has said he's a political moderate.
A moderate.
But his actions and endorsements have definitely leaned more right-wing in recent years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He endorsed Donald Trump in July 2024.
Okay.
And he was part of that, like, disastrous Twitter Spaces event for Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign announcement.
That was a mess.
It was. He's also been on X Spaces with all sorts of political figures, and he's even voiced support for some far-right figures in Europe.
So he's not afraid to, like, put his political views out there?
Nope. And it's drawn a lot of criticism, especially from European leaders.
It's definitely made him a more polarizing figure, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then there was the whole hand gesture controversy during Trump's inauguration in January 2025.
The hand gesture.
Yeah, he made this gesture that some people thought looked like a Nazi or Roman salute.
Oh, wow.
At first, he said people were just politicizing it, but he didn't deny the meaning outright.
Oh.
Later, he did deny it, and even made some jokes about Nazis.
Jokes about Nazis.
Yeah.
That's a risky move.
It was. But regardless of what he meant, a lot of media outlets reported that, like, right-wing extremists and neo-Nazis were using the gesture too.
So it became like a symbol for them, whether he intended it or not.
Exactly. And then in March 2025, he retweets this message that denies the Holocaust.
Oh, man.
I know. These incidents, they've caused a lot of concern. You know, like, what message is he sending and what impact is that having?
It's definitely concerning, especially given his massive platform and influence.
Absolutely. All right, legally, things haven't been smooth sailing either.
Real?
Remember the SEC lawsuit from 2018 over the funding secured tweet?
Yeah.
They settled it, but he had to agree to get certain tweets pre-approved.
Okay.
Then the SEC looked into another tweet about Tesla's production.
Okay.
And in 2023, they sued him because he wouldn't testify in an investigation about his Twitter stock purchase.
Wow.
A judge said he had to testify.
So they're not letting up on him.
Nope. And then January 2025, another SEC lawsuit. This one's about securities violations related to the Twitter acquisition.
So multiple lawsuits from the SEC alone.
Yeah. And let's not forget about the ruling in January 2024 that his massive $55 billion Tesla pay package was, like, completely revoked.
That's huge.
It was. And it raised questions about, like, corporate governance, how executives are compensated, all that.
For sure. It seems like his actions are under a microscope and, you know, not everything he does is passing the legal test.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Okay, let's talk about his personal life, which is, well, pretty complicated.
In what way?
He's fathered 14 children.
14?
14. And sadly, one of them passed away as an infant.
Oh, that's awful.
It was. So he had 6 kids with his first wife, Justine Wilson.
Okay.
They had twins and then triplets.
All through IVF.
Yeah, after their first child, Nevada, tragically died from SIs.
Oh, wow. So they went through a lot together.
They did. And since then, one of their elder twins has come out as transgender, changed her name to Vivian Jenna Wilson.
Okay.
And she's said publicly that she doesn't want anything to do with him.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah. Then he was married to Tallulah Riley twice.
Twice.
Both ended in divorce. Expert,